Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Greetings. This video here is part 3 or 4 in a series of videos I'm making about ideas against an uncastled king. So if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to help me reach my 1,000 subscriber goal. I'm about halfway there now. I have about a little bit over 500 subscribers. And with that said, my main focus on this channel is chess, but from time to time I do post videos about my other hobbies, such as video games and my tool collection. But up in the top right corner of the screen, you'll see an information tab if you so inclined to see any more of my other videos. This game here took place May 11th, 1997 in New York City, where IBM Deep Blue Computer and Garry Kasparov played one of the historical man versus machine matches, and it was round 6, which was the last round, and both sides had an equal score. With this victory in this game, though, Deep Blue made history by being the first computer to defeat a world champion in a match. So here, Kasparov chose the Caracan defense. So let's have a look at just what went wrong for Garry and what can we learn from it. Just to let you know, we're not going to analyze the entire game, though we will go quickly over all 19 moves of it. However, we're just going to evaluate the features of the uncastled king, and finally I'll talk about the psychological advantage. Just to put this match in a little bit of more historical perspective, I'd just like to tell you just a little bit of information about the first and second match if you're not familiar with it. The first match took place in 1996 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Kasparov beat Deep Blue with a score of 2-4. In that match, Deep Blue did win a game, so it set a record of being the first computer to defeat, world champion in a classical game under real, tournament conditions. This game here comes from the rematch, which was in 1997, and this one was held in New York City, where Deep Blue defeated Kasparov 3.5 to 2.5. And again, this was significant because it set people thought this was the end of chess, which is, and as we see nowadays, it's not. And this was a big blow to humans, but however, it turned to actually make chess probably better than it really is. But anyway, moving on. In this game, let's see, Deep Blue kicked off with E4, C6 from Kasparov, which is obviously the beginning, or could transpose any other opening. But again, we're just going to get to the part quickly about the uncastled king and show you just what went wrong here. All right, D4, D5, and so far so good. I mean, this is typical stuff you see across the board in a tournament. Knight C3, D takes E, Knight takes E, Knight D7, Knight G5. Now, this move here, this Knight G5 move, I've actually seen this move a couple of the times. I think Kramnik has played this a couple of openings. I mean, it is just opening, typical theoretical opening, but however, you need to watch out for a knight when it is down on your side of the board and it can sacrifice itself and you are really far away from castling. So that's the number one thing we need to think about is how many moves we're away from castling. Is a piece available for sacrifice against our king? And if the piece sacrifices itself for our king, what would be the follow-up? So obviously here, this is not where the knight is going to sacrifice itself, because this wouldn't, white doesn't have enough pieces out. This would just be basically a knight for a pawn for nothing. Well, the black king couldn't be able to castle, but it's not enough. Knight GF6, bishop D3, E6. Now, this E6 move, this is, again, there's always what I like to say, an available sacrifice on this pawn here to remove F6. So basically this is an indirect, F7, and basically this is an indirect attack on F7. However, at this point in time, it's too early to see a sacrifice on this on this pawn take place. But again, if you allow a person to take under certain circumstances like Garry Kasparov did, this could be not good for you if you're black, or white if it happens to you the other way around. So knight knight 1 F3, h6. Now, whenever you see a knight down, somebody's house, you can sacrifice it. For example, here, you always want to take a look. Is it possible that I could get a check on one of these squares? Now, I have done this type of sacrifice in a blitz game, albeit, and a rapid game, but never a tournament game because I never ran across it. But I probably would highly consider it. I've sacrificed my knight on e6, on multiple occasions, and usually I've had queen h5 check with the follow up to make, so he couldn't, the black king couldn't block it, and he's stuck in the middle of the board. I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's the thing we're going to do here. We're going to get to the point now, and we're going to evaluate this position just to say, do you think we should sacrifice the piece or not? So this is where, let's take the arrows off the board so we can clearly see here. This is when you get in a position something like this. Let's just look at the features of the position. First of all, it's obvious that white has the typical development advantage that white would have over black. I mean, there's 3 pieces out on the board. For example, bishop, knight, knight. They're already developed. This bishop does have a angle to come out. This queen does have an angle to come out. Black is only one move from castling. So if you sacrifice the piece, you could say at the very least that I would have 3 pieces and a queen, meaning that this bishop here, this knight here would be out and available to follow up for an attack. However, now if you look at the black side of the board, you immediately notice that all these pieces on the original square. I mean, this bishop does have a little bit of scope on this diagonal, not much. This knight is out. This knight is out. But I mean, they're kind of what I like to say, hobbling on one another, where this knight can't jump here because of this knight. So let's remove all these squares here and then go back and take a look. All right. So now, oops. Now we've established, Now we've established that the development obviously is in white's favor. All right. Black has some development issues, and white is going to take advantage of them. Now, after we make the sacrifice, let's have a look now. Okay. Obviously, knight takes. Now, according to all of the research that I found, this, if black were to go ahead and take right now, this position is relatively equal for black. Okay, we're just going to quickly go to the line again. We're not analyzing the game. We're just analyzing features here. All right, so pawn takes, bishop g6 check, king e7, castles. All these moves are relatively natural. Queen c7, rook e1, king d8. I mean, black is a little bit disjointed. He has, take a look at this. You got three pawn islands here, and sorry, I put red here. We got 3 pawn islands. Pawns are very loose. So at the very least, you can say that white is probably at least going to win another pawn, right? So let's just say if white did win another pawn, he'd had 2 pieces for the pawn. Two pawns for the piece. Black has no right to castle. White's pieces are more active, and his king is just stuck in the middle. It's going to take a while for him to really get tucked away, even in this case. But however, based on my research of the position, based on my analysis of the position with Stockfish, this position is relatively equal. I mean, it's not like white doesn't have some sort of edge, like just a little bit, maybe a quarter of a pawn edge, but you got to say this is looking bad for black, and he's in a situation where he has a very thin tree to pick his moves from before he really makes a huge mistake. So, now, but going back to the original game, all right, go back here. Garrett Kasparov chose Queen E7. According to, I've read analysis by John Nunn on this from the chess-based database. I've analyzed it myself a little bit with engine, not extensively, but just enough to say that it gives white about a 1.5 pawn advantage. This move here, and again, if you think about it, you're getting a 1.5 advantage, and you just sacrifice a knight. That lets you know the value of keeping somebody's king stuck in the middle of the board, particularly when they got pieces that look like this. So the computer really likes this position. The computer has 2 bishops. They historically, since computers has been very strong, they've all liked to have 2 bishops. Okay, you got 2 bishops. They have scope on these diagonals here, even some scope here. This queen comes out. You got a possibility of castle, which is actually the next move is the castles. So let's just go ahead to the next move. And now Kasparov takes. And obviously that you wouldn't do all of this if you didn't follow what bishop g6 check. And there's only one real move here, and that's king d8. So let's take another stock in features here. One of the features here that I see is that the 2 bishops is a huge advantage at this point of white. Because you go here, he's keeping this blocked off. You got, again, we talked about this isolated pawn. This bishop can't be moved, so right now it does have influence. It's on this diagonal here, and obviously on this diagonal here, but more so on the diagonal from here to here, just to highlight that again. So it's very bad for black here. All right. So again, the big features here is that, again, to reiterate, pieces all here. Nothing is really active. Nothing is coordinated. Black has nice coordination. Even the follow-up sometimes with knight to e5 could be a follow-up. So many good moves that white has. So I guess to think about it this way is to say, if I sacrifice a piece to keep a king in the middle of the board, do I have a lot of moves at my disposal that do threaten something? And if you do, that's where that psychological advantage begin to come in. Now, playing a computer, probably not so much. But against another human, you have a huge psychological advantage. So immediately, deep blue goes bishop s4. Completely shuts down this diagonal here. I mean, there's nothing that you really can do on that diagonal. I mean, you can't even go here with the knight to threaten this, because this white bishop is so strong right here on this diagonal, on that little bitty diagonal, because you just can't move it quite yet. So it's just enough to give white that advantage to hold this diagonal for quite some time. So Kasparov plays b5. According to John Nunn notes, he said this is a new move. Well, this was at the time he analyzed the game. I don't know when he did this, but he wrote this in his notes and said this was a new move. I don't really like it, because you give white a break here. You give white a break here. In fact, it's just like I mean, this knight comes in. This knight is threatening this square here, and if you, for example, go here, takes, takes here. Even this might not. I haven't analyzed it, but it's still just everything just looks good on black's behalf. So again, let's go back. When you are looking at evaluating a position like this, and are you willing to sacrifice a piece to keep a king in the middle of the board? You want to look at, do you have a lot of follow-up moves at your disposal? I mean, here, white has many moves. All right, which is immediately what deep blue does. It goes a4. Taken wouldn't really do any good. So he develops, I mean, which is what he should be doing is developing. But however, let's still look at that bishop. This dog bishop is like so powerful. Basically, because this bishop here is so powerful. These bishops are just like something right now if you look at it. I mean, that's quite beautiful. But however, Kasparov kind of set itself up for this. All right, so rook e1. I mean, obvious you want to, threaten that single pawn. Isolated pawn, rather. Backs the bishop up. And here, I'm not really going to talk about the features any much more because we've already seen it. We know the result of the game, but I'm just going to quickly go through the rest of the game. And I'm going to go back. Now here, queen d3. I think I would have liked to have went c4 immediate. But deep blue does this. Bishop c6. Bishop here. Threatening the pawn. So again, before we go back and look at the position where the sacrifice is taking place, let's just talk about this for a second. All right, so one thing that you can have an advantage of when you got a position like this is that if you were to win, say 2 pawns for the piece, let's just say, for example, I'm going to just make a move for the sake of making a move. Let's just say if black done this. Let's just take it with the bishop. It doesn't matter which one because it's just a sake for illustration. All right. White does have two pawns for the piece on top of one castle king. But the point is now strategy, what you can use in a position like this, because I've actually done this in a game and even won the game. I mean, the actual tournament game where I had sacrificed a piece for 2 pawns. Because black is really in shambles right now. Black is in trouble. Black is scared. Black is, has a lot of work to do to get his pieces coordinated. So while he's getting coordinated, what I did, my strategy was I went ahead and traded my pawns on this side of the board and forced trades for these 2 pawns. So therefore, hold on, let me go back. Not that pawn, but I forced, just say any 2 of these pawns. I forced a trade of 2 pawns for these 2 pawns. And I actually ended up winning a piece of theirs with this isolated passed pawn. And end up winning the game because I had 3 pawns to 2 on this side of the board. So another thing to think about, you got to sometimes think about the long term, is like if you sacrifice this piece, if you was to immediately go into an end game, would you be winning or losing? And so what I would do is say, think about it. If I can set myself up for a better end game, I should do that if I can't think of anything else to do. So right now, for example, you probably could force the trade of these 2 pawns right here. Force the trade of these 2 pawns for these 2 pawns. And if you were to go into an end game, you probably would still draw with 2 pieces for the pawn. If, for example, when I'm just saying, let's say, for example, if the queens magically disappear from the board, you probably still would draw the game. Probably. Not necessarily saying you would, but it's a higher chance than if you just took the queens off the board right now. So anyway, let's just go ahead and just take a look at the last few moves of the game, which was, let's go back to here. Rook take e7, Kasparov sacrificed the queen. but it only made matters worse for him. C4, Garrett Kasparov resigned. Because, I mean, anything you do is just wrong here. I mean, this pawn here is hanging, first of all. I mean, if you move the knight, for example, takes, all right? I mean, anything you do is just wrong. I mean, it's like, even if you just took the pawn, you take here. The only way to protect this, reasonably protect this, is to go here. And if you do that, I mean, right, that's not even reasonable, because you just take, if you go here, you just take here for, I'm just making an example. You take here, for example. If I don't know what else you could do. I mean, you could do something, even do this. I mean, that's still not going to help your case, because you take this, you take that. I mean, let's say this file here is open. I mean, there's not much you can do here. I mean, this is definitely lost. I mean, your king is wide open. I mean, this knight is about to bounce in here. So, again, let's go back for a second here. Just take one look. I just want to go back and say what I think happened. And this is just my take. I think when Garrett Kasparov pushed h6, because again, I, as a amateur player, I try to avoid stuff like this right here, for somebody to sacrifice the knight here and check me either here or here to stop me from castle. I try to avoid stuff like that. I think either he thought that Deep Blue wasn't going to sacrifice the knight, he underestimated it, or either he just probably just didn't see it. I mean, because I know one time I was playing in a tournament game, and I gave somebody the Greek gift, which is like one of the easiest attacks in chess to play. And it was just because I had never really seen it from the receiving side. I've always given the Greek gift to people and won, well, most of the time. So basically, in positions like this, you should study it from the opposite side of the board, so you can't let it, happen to you. So anyway, that's again, just in summary. I'm about to end this video because it's getting a little long, but in summary, when you go through and look at this game, or look at any other game, you want to make sure that if you sacrifice a piece, that you have some follow-up moves that give you some good moves. You want to see, is your opponent disjointed with his pieces? You want to see, is he got a lot of undeveloped pieces like Kasparov did with his 2 bishops and 2 rooks? You want to see if you got any long-term strategies like trading pawns on one side of the board and keeping all the pawns on just one side of the board. So in case if you were to be forced into an endgame, you'd be more likely to draw it. And you just want to go for activity and coordination in a situation like this, because you done sacrifice a piece, so you're all in. So anyway, that's part 3 of this series, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. So please, give it a thumbs up if you'd like, and part 4 will be coming out soon. Until then, you guys take care.